This sounds like a 10-figure operation in the USD. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Kenya, that would make you a billionaire at 24.
I would not say I'm a billionaire. I'm a man with a plan to better the continent.
He is the 23-year-old founder of KS Group, a multi-sector powerhouse and the driving force behind Tukutane Entertainment, the team bringing Nigerian superstar Asake to Kenya.
However, I don't believe that competence is by virtue of age. I believe competence is by virtue of repetition.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is not a name or a voice you would have had in our first and previous episode. My name is Shawn, and I apologize for the sudden introduction. But today is not about me. Karibu Japa, without further avail, this is the podcast breaking down the biggest things happening in East Africa right now. And today we're joined by someone with not only a unique name, but a unique sense of purpose. Khalhani Sichangi is the founder and CEO of the multi-sector conglomerate KS Group and the force behind one of its most prominent portfolio companies, revolutionizing the future of fun in Tukutane Entertainment. Not only content to revolutionize the future of fun, he is also chasing sun in agriculture and mobilizing technology, chasing scale in technology, mobilizing the future of our cities. And when it comes to all these things, he is unabashedly committed to taking multiple bets on Africa. All this at the age of 24, while being able to put his hand up and not only claim towards having multiple aspirations, but multiple accomplishments, while the conglomerate marches towards over 200 projects delivered, over 150,000 people served and clients served and things of that nature. And while we will be getting into not only everything that ticks under the KS Group umbrella, and also the very exciting announcement that Tukutane has brought onto our timelines as of late, which will be what we'll have to celebrate in this coming December with the coming of one of Africa's and the world's most streamed artists in Asake live in Nairobi, December 20th. I also look forward to unpacking not only that, but what it means to take a bet on Africa, to build with friends, and to face forward as a generation, all at such a young age, at the age of 24. But yeah, Sichangi, Karibu Japa, and as I, as I read this off the page myself, this sounds like a 10-figure operation in the USD. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Would be a good estimate, I believe. Yeah, it would be a good estimate.
Some people would say in Kenya that would make you a billionaire at 24. Huh?
I would not say I'm a billionaire. I would say I'm a man with a plan to better the continent.
I see.
That's what I have.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to approaching these ventures, and at the age that you have, is there any particular reason why you didn't put your head down and say, this is the one thing, and you said, no, I am building a Swiss Army knife?
Yes, I think at a rudimentary level, every business serves to satisfy customers. I think as entrepreneurs, we are actually in the solution market. As long as you can package a solution and make a margin on that solution from what it costs you, then you're able to be profitable in the endeavor. Then the business of being a doctor and the business of running a hospital are two very different skills in themselves. For example, a physician would need to know and understand the inner workings of a body. Entrepreneur or the person running the hospital will need to understand the inner workings of a balance sheet. So how much do I owe in rent versus how much am I charging my customers is very different. Is your hard working or not? So that rudimentary skill is what I set out to master, and I hope I am getting better.
I see. And actually, that's a really powerful analogy and a really interesting way of putting that in our minds and in our heads. And actually, before I go any further, I seem to have forgotten our manners and maybe I'm getting too familiar. But typically, when it comes to welcoming guests onto Karibu Japa, we like to start with some kind of icebreaker. So I'd like to give you probably an option of two. So we could either go with a hot take, so just any kind of pet peeve, gripe, ruffle of the feathers, spanner in the works that you think would set you apart from what generally people would say, but for good reason? So something almost like a hill you'd happily die on, or some would say like a poignant observation. So this is just one of those things people tend to overlook, but maybe it's worth appreciating every now and then, smell the flowers kind of situation. Which are we feeling, sweet or salty today, Sichangi?
I don't know if I should give you the hot take, maybe.
Okay, let's go with the salty. So yeah, let's go with the hot take, and then I think as to even give you a bit of a chance to maybe consolidate what you're thinking, I'll go first. So when it comes to a hot take, I'll go with one of my old reliables, and it has to do with Wi-Fi on airplanes. I'm personally not a believer of Wi-Fi in airplane. I think that's one of, especially as someone who actually landed in the city I'm currently in, Dar es Salaam, maybe at 2 a.m. last night. I do believe those moments in the skies should be moments that we spend alone. We spend uninterrupted and unstimulated. Yeah, maybe if there's some entertainment on the flight with regards to the cinema, sure. Some music, sure. You download a few videos, read a book, why not? But when it comes to being plugged into the algorithms, into the emails and the notifications, personally not a fan. What do you think?
I'd say it depends, especially with some of the initiatives that we are running. Depending on if you can afford that time away from the internet, then it's either convenient or inconvenient. So if like I'm going on holiday, fine, by all means let the plane not have Wi-Fi. But if I'm on a work trip and I still have things that I need to ship, definitely that's like shooting the food.
I see. And when it comes to, I definitely appreciate the fact that a lot of things are still in motion, and especially with regards to work trips, that there needs to be that, very quick back and forth, even while we are suspended in the air. But what do you think about also the fact that that time away is also what can help you unplug some of the things that have been nagging at your businesses, just because you have that sort of serenity that maybe you'd be unable to access as easily if you are still immersed in, for example, like an office or things of that nature?
Yeah. I think scheduling it is probably the best way to go about things. And I believe as well, cadence is something that should be mastered. So it's a cadence between taking breaks and not taking breaks. That's why if it's something I've scheduled and it's a break cadence, then perfectly fine. But if I'm on a work rhythm and it's disturbing my rhythm, it can be a bit debilitating or can do more harm than good. I also believe like everything to a certain extent is very variable. Everything depends. I don't think it's black or white. I think the older we grow, we discover a lot of gray, and gray has a lot of shades. I'm sure as an artist you'll appreciate very many shades of gray. It's usually either black or white. Then you find probably 500 different types of gray.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to put it. As life goes on, we do definitely tend to appreciate a lot of gray, and it seems to show in our hair. The more stressful lives we lead. And I think with that, I'd probably like to give you a chance to share your own hot take.
I think my hot take would be in regards to entitlement. I think it's both like bitter and sweet. Like I don't understand entitlement at any level. One, I'm a firm believer the world owes you nothing, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because nothing is owed to you, but that also means everything is yours to earn. So it depends on how you look at it. Half empty, half full, but the world owes you nothing. So anybody that's entitled, I find very unpalatable.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting that. And what instances of entitlement do you often see that makes you form that opinion?
I think my belief is or stems from, or that view stems from the basis in which once you migrate up a pyramid or a ladder, you find very many, and people have called it different things. I think some would refer to it as black tax, but in reference to like enterprise is you're not my relative, or you're not related to me. You're a relatively younger individual than me in the same space that we're in. However, you're entitled to the opportunity I currently have, as you feel I should, let's say, put you on.
Yeah, put me on, big
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, but like it comes from the ecosystem tax, because let's say here you don't even know how to book a venue, how to book an artist. So you'll come to me and you feel like you're entitled that I should help you because you have this dream, perhaps. I think everything you have to earn. So is what's the quid pro quo in some of these things? And then how can we make it a realistic exchange of value? Because you can't say you want to be an entrepreneur, I want to build, let's say, an entertainment business, but you can't exchange value with me as another entrepreneur. You're struggling with one person. You can imagine trying to exchange value with 5,000 attendees or 10,000 attendees, 15,000 attendees. It'd be very complex. So, I mean,
I see, and that's also an interesting point on familiarity and probably being too familiar in the world of business, right?
yeah.
The age you are, you've probably also had a few. You've gone through all sorts of curves with regards to what it takes to do business with friends, what not to do, and what to do. And that's something I'd definitely be interested in getting into as the conversation goes on. But actually, before we go any further, one of the things I'd actually like to address head on is your name. You have a very unique name in Khalhani. Yeah, please divulge what that name means and what it signifies and how it manifests in your life.
Khalhani means destined to lead. It comes from Egyptian Genesis, which means the name was actually Khalfani. So Khalhani means destined to lead, and I think from an early age, it's something that I'd set myself out to do and break apart from my peers. I mean, leadership is either a gift or a curse. So you could say it has had its upside, has had its downside. That's something I carry proudly on a daily basis, and also we attach it to the business in regards that we believe our business is a leader in the market and a leader on the continent, and eventually globally. And I usually say we don't attach Africa to the end of our group name as a case for mercy or pity. We do it to show the scale at which we intend to grow and scale our business. I think in the next few years, Africa will have the largest youngest population on the continent, on the globe. As well, we have the largest amount of natural resources at our disposal. So it's a show of strength and a show of where we should be as market leaders.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think the average age of Africa is maybe 19, or if around there about. And in a few years, actually, every human of working age, 1 out of every 4 will be African. And by 2050, Africa's population of 1.4 billion is expected to double to close to 3 billion, right? So it definitely makes sense to bet on basically the fastest growing working population in the world. Yeah, and betting on not asking for handouts or being entitled, as you put it very aptly, but on continental transformation with legs that we build ourselves, legs that we can sustain. Yeah. Now, even as we go into the KS Group Africa, which I guess is aptly named after yourself and aptly named with the embodiment of being destined to lead in this continental transformation, can you start to walk us through some of the different ventures that you have under that umbrella?
We have had multiple businesses we have run under the umbrella, and as much as it's a conglomerate, we like to view ourselves in the lens of private equity, venture capital. Mostly we like to position ourselves in the alternative investment space from a financial perspective. We have had the oldest business that we have is entertainment, as you rightfully said, which we've developed and has gone through its own seasons. And its seasons are also a reflection of myself as an entrepreneur, as I was developing my skill and building my toolkit to enable me to do everything else that we have done. As well, we have agriculture, which has different verticals. So we are in the horticulture space, in the commodity space. We also make a break into the livestock space, both for local and external consumption. As well, we do import and export of commodities. So we serve the local market as well as international markets. We have software. We believe a major part of this transformation will be powered through technology. Our capacity to have our own that serves us on the basis of first principles or fit for purpose technology is key. So we started from a software perspective. Eventually, we believe that we also have our own capacity to put out hardware. Aside from that, we will be making a small segue into mobility, as there's at a very basic level, people need to move and get around, finding more efficient ways, both for the planet and from a profit-making perspective, would be critical for our continent. And aside from that as well, consumer goods. Everyone needs, at a personal level, certain things to run their day-to-day affairs. And having distribution that matches or that will meet that demand of the growing population is critical for us, as we believe the capacity or a lot of the innovation as to some of these products has already been done, but how our markets operating efficiently to deliver the right products to the right people at the right cost at the right time. That's a major underlying pieces of theory that we have at the group, or that a lens that we look through by setting up any business. So if it's entertainment, can we deliver the right artist to the right customer at the right cost at the right time? So can we have Asake in Kenya in December at the right price? For agriculture, it's the same thing. Can we have cherry tomatoes in zucchini at the right price at the right time? For transport, can we have a bike ready to carry a passenger at the right place at the right time? For merchandising, it's the same thing for any consumer good, whether it's FMCG or even clothing. Can we have the right product priced at the right price, distributed effectively to meet this customer's need? As I have every human at a basic level faces the same problems. I think we just have a very unique way to approaching all the problems that a human can encounter throughout their lives.
Okay, that's great to see, great to hear. And I guess addressing those one by one. When it comes to tech, very exciting space in the region and in Nairobi in particular, or once and often referred to as the Silicon Savannah. And that's something you're taking on as Virgil Africa, right? And effectively as a developer shop for Africa's digital problems and transformation, right? This is, I think, when I first heard of Virgil Africa, it also came with an announcement that $1.45 million had been invested towards efforts in this line and things of that nature. When it comes to that, I'd probably be curious, when it comes to raising for these sort of solutions, how do you sort of present those to potential investors, and what do they usually come in being interested in? Is it more impact? Is it more profit? Is it a bit of both? But I also understand there obviously has to be a bit of pragmatism to all these things. But take it over, please.
I think the major thing would come in one, what is the time horizon you're looking at? I think more important than entering an investment is exiting an investment. So what is this investor, or what is this person who's deploying capital looking for at the point of exit? If it's impact organization, they would be looking at the number of lives you've touched, or in line with the whatever agenda objective they're trying to push, whether it's healthcare, whether it's youth employment. And so are you able to project out into the future and say, by this date, I can promise this result, whether it is for profit or not for profit? And that will be the major determinant of this or whether this investor will deploy the capital and pull the trigger, or not deploy the capital and trigger, or not deploy the capital or not pull the trigger. So I think even before entering the investment, you have to have a very clear picture for this investor at the point at which they exit. As everyone exits anything eventually, it's either you sell, you go bankrupt, or you die. It's really a point at which it has to be considered. So for in reference to Virgil, it's how much commitment can we get from investors in the space as to what they can give us to help us run this operation and make it profitable, and what return are we giving them? So there are people who came on board with credits for a lot of the infrastructure that they have. A major thing for software infrastructure. So can we get servers? How much is our server cost? How much is a physical cash sum? How much is as well committed in regards to other things to support this business in its day-to-day operations? That would typically be costs on our P&L that can be taken away or eradicated, making us more profitable, delivering high returns to them as investors. So there's some cash that we got in the business. There's also other infrastructure that we got committed, as well as even brick and mortar space that we offered up. So it was quite a robust undertaking, especially because we acquired as a group Virgil. Our group, what was formerly Paris, we acquired it and merged it with our software arm, which was previously Monarch, and sold it to investors, rebranded as Virgil. And we're able to put it out into the market. And for example, now it allows us to be more profitable as a group. For example, for ticketing solutions in the market currently, majority of people have used third-party ticketing platforms that will charge between 5 to 6% on every transaction carried out. For us, on our interactions, we actually have 0% platform fees. So we are off the bat 6% more profitable on any of our events, just by virtue of having budget.
Oh, that's great to hear, and that's also probably great on your side to know that even as Asake comes with all the tens of thousands of fans that will be looking forward to seeing him, much more of that will be, I guess, going back into supporting the work that you're doing to bring us some of the breakout performers in the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's lovely. And you talk about these things and the different aspects with regards to P&L and exits and so on and so forth as a very tenured entrepreneur. I don't mean to beat the drum too hard on how young you are, because we are the same age. Yeah, so it's not as if I'm talking from a place of looking down, but also just from a place of respect and admiration with regards to the exposure you've gotten to and the appreciation you've internalized of so many aspects of business already so far, and probably that's the kind of trajectory that puts you on for. It's very exciting, but maybe I'd probably ask we take a few steps back, and I'd be curious to know how you ever got to know that this is probably the life that you'd be leading, and the life that you'd be leading so soon. Yeah, you said destined to lead, but there's probably a point at which one is anointed, right? It's like David before he ever became king.
Okay. I think probably from a very young age, I'd say I have a privilege of having two parents who are entrepreneurs. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial environment. And I was also relatively exposed to business at a young age for majority of, let me say, time apart from school. By virtue of being the child of an entrepreneur, you find a lot of your time being spent within the business premises, observing, not really even doing much, but observing as you probably wait for your parent to finish getting some work done. And eventually, as a child's brain is curious, curiosity eventually leads you down a certain road, and you begin to ask questions. That understanding, for me at a young age, I believe was pivotal, or the privilege of that exposure was pivotal. And continuously nurturing that exposure that I initially had, I think is what led me to being where I am at a relatively young age. Not that it matters, actually, I'm 23, but not that it matters. However, I don't believe that competence is by virtue of age. I believe competence is by virtue of repetition. So the amount of times, similar to how capital behaves, your margin is determined by stock turns. If you sell something with a 10% margin and recycle that capital 10 times in one day, you find you have a 100% margin of the initial investment. So similarly, with your skill, if you put it through the ringer 10 times, you find you're 10 times more experienced just by virtue of repeating it 10 times in a day, as opposed to 10 times over 10 years. So it's a thing in which I believe I've been relatively dedicated, in my personal opinion, towards the mission and the work that we are doing. And that early exposure, I would definitely say, gives me a leg up. However, if anyone can defeat me in repetitions, they will defeat me in skill as well.
Okay, that's an interesting way to put it, and definitely I can appreciate the principle behind that. It's not about age; it's more about reps. Yeah, what do you think it is about life? What do you think it is about the way society is oriented and the way life progresses, whether it be education or professional escalations, in responsibility and so on and so forth, that has us pegging certain accomplishments, certain levels of experience and wisdom to certain, revolutions around the sun. So basically age. And is there any ways you would suggest that we shake things up to be able to not be so surprised when a 25-year-old works in having put in the reps of your typical 40-year-old, 60-year-old, and so on and so forth? Yeah, instead of having a very linear way of thinking and organizing society.
My view has been, and especially on my part, is I believe we reference society with too close a view. I think we would only typically reference the last 500 years of recent history. However, taking it past that, looking since the inception of the planet, gives us a better understanding of what our role is as humans, or where we stem from. So, beginning to understand that a lot of the structures that are put in place, such as economics, enterprise, man-made initiatives, and thus are malleable in terms of timelines and timeframes. There's nothing that says somebody would take 10 years to be a successful entrepreneur, or would take 1 month to be a successful entrepreneur. I believe it is something in which, if you are able to exert yourself in a calculated manner, I believe there's an entrepreneur who could be more successful and build a larger business than me in 1 month than what I've been building for, let's say, the last 5 years. But that's by virtue of the market they're in, the right product, the right market conditions. And on paper, they'll be more successful. However, looking at a longer time horizon, let's say over the next 50 years, with the market that we're building for, then I will be better placed, especially having infrastructure in place, to then overtake that same individual. I think understanding that our reality is moldable and built on top of very many assumptions would be something that would help us demystify this stigma that somebody should do something by a certain time, or by a certain window. There should be certain objectives met. I think an example of a late bloomer would be Aliko Dangote, who of late has put up his new refinery, has taken an aggressive approach towards private equity and venture capital.
Mm-hmm.
As well. You find, I think, as of last week or 2 weeks ago,
Some would struggle to call Dangote a late bloomer, though, no?
very.
Some would struggle to call Dangote a late bloomer, the richest black man in the world.
Yes, I would call him a late bloomer in reference to global performance with players like Elon Musk, players like Larry Ellison, players like Bill Gates, players like Mark Zuckerberg. That would be that would be the same sphere I put him in. And Dangote's, let me say, net worth would be on an upward trajectory more rapidly as the population also shifts dynamically, as we had earlier said on the call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'd call him a late bloomer. I don't think he's done blooming. I believe it only goes up from where he currently is as the richest African man, and probably can be the richest man on the continent within 10 years, as he rightfully said. If he's able to position his private equity and venture capital investments in the right way, I believe he can easily overtake Elon Musk or Larry Ellison in terms of the value he's providing on the continent, as he would have the highest population to solve problems for, or would marshal the most capital from a global perspective. Anyway, I digress.
Actually, while we're on Dangote, I'd be curious, because Dangote's presence with regards to investments in East Africa have actually grown exponentially in recent months. With regards to, I believe he has gotten involved in an entry into some sort of an acquisition, whether majority or minority, in the Java House Group. And I think there's a tours and safaris company that he has also been involved in purchasing. What is it called?
Pullmans.
Yeah, exactly. Pullmans Tours and Travels. Yeah. What do you think about Dangote's recent entries across the African continent and how that bodes, while he also, juggles the refinery that seems to, be on the other side of a lot of troubles now.
I think my view is, and typically the structure that we employ as entrepreneurs are quite robust. So if I is using a private equity or venture capital structure to do majority of these acquisitions, meaning they run independent or successful or unsuccessful independent of these refinery operations, I believe it's also inevitable as globalization is more apparent today, or is apparent today more than ever. I believe Africa as a continent will behave more as a market, with the owners of capital investing it across the continent, which is the same vision I had 5 years ago while naming the group, as opposed to that being on a downward trajectory. And that could be a very good rubric to make for decision making. Would this be on an upward trajectory or a downward trajectory? I believe Dangote is one of the first. However, I don't believe he will be the last. Similarly, on our part, we'll be venturing to West Africa with some of our products that we put into the market. And it is, how do I say it, fundamental that intellectual property we leverage to make business successful is not only utilized in one market, but is utilized in multiple markets. I think Kenya can definitely benefit from Dangote's entrepreneurial acumen, as although he may not be operating on a day-to-day basis as strategy, or on a day-to-day basis the private equity or the venture capital business that is acquiring Java or Pullmans. At a strategic level, he has capacity to impact the decision-making, which would essentially lead the enterprises to deliver superior returns or higher results, as he has with his other businesses in his group.
Yeah, I think that's great to point out, the fact that Dangote is probably one very high-profile name on a long list of limited partners in the private equity group that is making these acquisitions, and obviously on account of that, the groups may be able to leverage that name to make a few more buzz, raise a few more funds, so on and so forth. But meanwhile, Dangote is able to operate simultaneously many other things, such as a refinery that has led him to cross a net worth of about $20 billion as of this year, right? So yeah, I think now I'm going to ask for your help in retracing us as to what was our initial line of conversation before we deviated into one of the most prominent entrepreneurs on the continent's current ventures. I think we're talking more about, with regards to success on a larger horizon, and yeah, you're talking, and that's how we talked about who's blooming at what time, and probably placing us in a global and not so much, content to be tall amongst dwarves, as sometimes I may put it.
I think for me, on my part, probably to simplify, and I sometimes have very complex thought diagrams, and that's why if I digress, kindly forgive me. Mm-hmm. However, it's that in the history of the world, I think probably to put it more simply to answer your question directly, in the history of the world, there have been relatively young kings. I think Tutankhamun is a good example from Egypt, and as well, you will find very many civilizations have enjoyed great rules under relatively young rulers. And I believe that age is not a key determinant on the success of a leader, as one may be young and wise as a sage, or one may be old and a fool as a juvenile. So that's just an easy way to put it, to answer your question on whether the stigma on age is relevant or meaningful.
And I thank you for putting it that way. And I think when you zoom out, a lot of things start to make a lot of sense for people of all walks and ages of life, no matter how many trips around the sun they've made. But something I would be curious is, because some people like to say we make rules, we use rules and not exceptions, and sometimes we do have to acknowledge that doing certain things at a younger age is more atypical. And I'd probably like to know what has been your experience in trying to take people with you, take people that maybe you went to school with or you grew up with and spent childhoods with you, with regards to taking on these ventures. There's some discontentment maybe you may have gestured towards with regards to entitlement in certain aspects, and so on and so forth. But what's been your experience when it comes to doing business with friends? I do hear it's not for the weak.
Yeah, I think I will leverage this opportunity to reference pop culture. I think when like Young Thug says business is business, or all of these artists say that, there's a way to put it in complex, how do I say it, complex entrepreneurial terms. I believe doing business with friends is difficult as there's no real value exchange. For example, if I'm leveraging the skill set of an older entrepreneur, he has skill and I have time. So he uses his skill to guide my time, and together they can be an exchange of value. That's why the mentor-mentee relationship will work. So you have an old board, you have a young entrepreneur, and there's an exchange. Create shareholder value. The board of directors are shareholders. The CEO in this case would also be a shareholder, and together they generate or they have a good working relationship, as is a clear quid pro quo. However, amongst friends, it's very hard to have that balance in terms of quid pro quo, as there's no real exchange or there's an overlap in terms of skill set. For example, we both have time and complementary. We both have time and the exact. We both have time and skills that are very similar, or we have the same network and hang around the same people. So there's not much value you can add each other in terms of bringing in new customers to the business or bringing in new capital into the business. Or we genuinely think, or sorry, not genuinely, generally think in the same, um, thought trails. And the same way people say opposites attract, I don't think it's amongst, or it's an issue between compatibility of like and like. You and your friends are like, and that's why typically you are friends. And that's what becomes very difficult for you guys to then put something of value together. As it becomes a skill matching thing or experience matching thing, or two components that are opposite typically have to match for value to be generated. So that inability to exchange value amongst friends is where the challenge emerges. You know who I know, either whether it's a partner, a customer, a shareholder, an investor. We all know the same guys here. So what are you bringing to the table that I don't have? And what am I bringing to the table that you don't have? If we both have the exact same thing, it becomes very difficult to agree on quid pro quo in such situations.
And what about just the romantic element of it? You know, just having someone to take along for the ride. Yeah, even and let's say you both have your heads on straight, and you understand what's important. And at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is a lonely road, right? So maybe that can be the more intangible element that you both have to offer to each other.
And that is where I think like sometimes we go wrong in romanticizing, and that's where I started from the young thug thing, like business of business, like in romanticizing entrepreneurship or creating narratives around it as to whether it's compelling or not compelling. What needs to be done to generate a return is simply what needs to be done to generate a return, nothing less, nothing more. And typically, I'm known to have a phrase in the office: "This has nothing to do with happiness." Like when people begin to ask themselves, like, "Am I happy? Am I not happy?" I think people set the threshold for what they want. What you want has a cost attached to it. It's either you're willing or unwilling to pay the cost. If you don't want to pay the cost, that's also perfectly fine. It's a free world. However, if you want to meet the cost, meet it. I don't think it has anything to do with happiness or taking someone along for the ride. You'll notice, especially with the analogy of a plane, the additional cargo that you have on a plane, especially if not useful, will increase your burn rate, which is another word that is used in business quite a bit. So the higher the burn rate, the more you're expending resources on useless load that could be, and that fuel that you're burning could be used to take you farther and propel your business to new levels and new heights. Just from a logical perspective, that would be my view.
Okay, and definitely a very pragmatic approach when it comes to things, but I think it's very important that people hear it nonetheless. And when it comes to sort of emphasizing sort of the transactional nature of what sport you are in, which is the world of business, which is transactional in its very nature, you sort of took a very big step at the end, towards the end of last year, in basically a complete acquisition of Tukutane Entertainment and bringing it completely under the KS Group umbrella. Could you talk us through a bit more of what that took, what that was like? Maybe even with regards to the structuring of it, the negotiations of it when it came to probably buying out fellow partners and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think mine would be a view similar to Warren Buffett. Is there underlying value in this asset, or do I feel this asset is underutilized? And on my part, I truly believed in my heart that Tukutane in its form at the time was an underutilized asset, especially because I had quite clearly a vision for the future of media and entertainment in Africa that I believe this vessel could rightly achieve. So I think, firstly, is from the genesis of it was structuring the business. That was not its core purpose. Its main focus was to do live entertainment, I believe, in the Kenyan market with mid-level artists and generate a return for shareholders. So I think one would be to change that mission or change that purpose. The exercise of control, especially in reference to shareholding, is an important part before you change any organization's mandate. So with the partners that I had at the time, it became a conversation in which we have, let me refer to it as discord between shareholder visions and missions. And how can we undertake restructuring of this entity in that every party leaves happy and content with the decisions they made. So in terms of structuring the deal, it was relatively simple at arriving at quote unquote valuation and consideration for that valuation. And similar to the private equity approach, if something has, or if an organization has dormant assets that you could utilize, and a major part that is usually very hard to put a finger on or to put a cash value on would be goodwill.
Okay.
How much would you pay for a name like Tukutane in and of itself? It has unique intellectual property in and of itself, and people are already familiar with it from your previous interactions. So how do you price that? Okay, your yearly turnover is what, $100,000, $200,000. So do you then do a 5x multiple and pay out the equity at that? But even just turning over or using the 5x multiple doesn't allow for goodwill on intangible assets. So how do you value that as well? So I think just coming to an agreed sum in terms of what people believe was the value of this organization at the time and compensating the other partners. Ever since then, I think I restructured and retooled the business and tried different variations of it. And I believe we have arrived at our winning formula of promotions, technology, and infrastructure as the right mix for Tukutane as a business to build the future of African media and entertainment.
Okay, and that sounds like quite the undertaking when it comes to buying out. Are you able to divulge how many partners you had to buy out to complete this acquisition?
Mostly just one. Previously, two shareholders on an equity basis.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't complex. It wasn't complex in terms of the purchase agreement. I think what becomes complex is there are many other stakeholders who are not shareholders who also still have to be managed. So that is where the difficulty came from. As we don't leverage it much, and we're beginning to leverage it as a group, but we don't have much employee stock options that people utilize as a form of compensation in the market. However, rightfully, as you put it, there are people who would be partners or stakeholders even though not having equity. And somebody has given you 5 years of their life building this business. At the point of you acquiring it, that relationship or dealing with that interaction also becomes at least a point to note, if anything.
Okay, that's great and very, I'll probably say thoughtful, because many a times if there's nothing binding, in writing, that could be the kind of thing that's met with a shrug and be like, yeah, you probably should have been more strict on that side of things. But many people often, and especially in this market, are not conversant enough with those kinds of things to adequately protect themselves. And on account of that, sometimes if you want to, respect the goodwill that you're referring to, you may have to take on that responsibility for looking out for them yourself, although it may come with a cost all the same, right? Yeah, but yeah, still commend. I personally commend you for that, because yeah, that's very nice to hear. And as we sort of face forward towards December, for the act that we look set to welcome in Asake, yeah, probably one of the standout performers in the world, quite literally. Yeah. I probably want to ask, from previous experience, what are some of the things that Tukutane has learned that it will be doing to protect an event that so many of us are looking forward to? Yeah.
I believe, firstly, especially since the retooling of the business, there's been a renewed focus on above customer satisfaction, customer delight. So how can we go over and above to ensure that we deliver to customers, partners, and different stakeholders once in a lifetime experience? And in regards to safeguarding or other entity protecting all of our stakeholders, quite large undertakings have been done in that regard or in reference to that. And I don't know how granular you'll allow me get, as I'm avoiding being
don't hold back.
I'm avoiding being a politician and making grandiose statements. However, from a baseline perspective, let me just even start from safety and security. I think even from a national level, when we've engaged the highest level of security operators in the country, and our security operation is already underway in terms of provision of safety and security. One, from government operators perspective. Two, a private security perspective, and three, we even have a healthcare provider coming on board for any accidents or mishaps that might happen. I think over and above, in reference to the wait times, or in reference to let me refer to it as hospitality, I believe we have engaged the best service providers, not only in the country but in the region, just to make the undertaking possible from a technical standpoint. To find all the technology that we require, even for soundstage and lighting, is not available in our market. So we've had to source additional equipment from foreign markets. We've had to outsource additional expertise from international markets, even just in regards to our standard operating procedures for entry and exit, technically referred to as ingress and egress times. Our bar operations also will be first in class, so everyone will be able to get their refreshments, get their food and drink. We also have a long list of vendors who are probably not the list, but we're working with the biggest brands in the market as well. For this would be the food service industry. So the biggest names in food service, I think as well, the biggest names in the hospitality space. From artist perspective, I think we have already confirmed, and the artists and their partners has confirmed their attendance for their engagement. We as well are doing bookings for more international artists to ensure that all of this right technical infrastructure that we put into place can now be leveraged for first-in-class production and performance by world-class artists. Because I can also say with confidence that what the audience knows as of now is Asake. However, there's still a lot more to come that people will find surprising up until the day of the event. As we have not even dropped a lineup, we haven't dropped a venue, we haven't.
I was actually wondering if it was me that was missing something or if the venue was just escaping me. But
no.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we haven't divulged a lot of this value. In between now and then, we'll adequately communicate to consumers and our customers how we intend to delight them, how we would make our promises and equally deliver on those promises. So I've tried to touch at a high level. So when it comes to like things like food service, you see the brands that we have for you on the day for refreshments and food service. When you see security, you see the security firms that we're working with. When we say international artists, to international artists we're working with. When we say international hospitality partners, you see who's come on board. So this value that we'll communicate to consumers over the next few months, and as well we have given activations for different levels of customers. So we'll be on campuses over the next few months. We'll be in malls over the next few months. We'll be in other events over the next few months. We'll be in nightclubs near you over the next few months. We'll be on billboards, we'll be on screens, we'll be on your screen, we're on the Jepper screen currently. So a lot of exciting work going on there.
And that's very exciting to hear, just even as I take that in firsthand, right? And again, I did mention that I did arrive in Dar es Salaam as of this morning, and I'm currently speaking to you from Tanzania. Should we expect you on, beyond Kenya's borders to some of its neighbors anytime soon?
Yeah, 100%. We're really in conversation with people in the Tanzanian market, the largest players in media and entertainment in Tanzania, looking to come on board for some of these interactions. As well, there might be potential either to import additional consumers from the region, or to set up for them their own product if you deem it financially viable. So that's the assessment that we're doing currently as a team, to see what would be more value for customers and more value to us as a business. Either one, setting up the same product, different markets, or two, which would I think be awesome for balance of payments as a country, especially being a Kenyan, bringing a lot of that market down into Nairobi for the experience of the product that we're putting up there.
Okay, and that's very exciting to hear. I look forward to the time when I can not only say that Tukutana in Kenya, but in many other countries as well. And probably when it comes to approaching the Tanzanian market, that's something that they will greet quite warmly, given their much greater affinity with the Swahili language, right? So there's already something to warmly welcome on that side of things. But yeah, as I bring this conversation to a close, and honestly, I can say that I look forward to so much of what you've already divulged, and even just the rollout when it comes to the promo of the December 20th event with Asake headlining, something that I hope I'll be there myself for to witness. Right, I know even when at the first drop of tickets, they were sold out within 3 hours, probably crashing several times in somewhere in between, just given how many people were scrambling to get tickets. Right, yeah. I think because personally for me, I think I was just hearing like murmurs, oh, Asake December, then all of a sudden it just drops. Right, I'm also very thankful. Somehow God had it so that I texted you before the announcement and not after, because I'm pretty sure you'd have been much harder to get a hold of upon getting everything together that such a launch would have entailed. But I am very glad that we managed to get this conversation going, long overdue. Right, so yeah, man, basically from agriculture to technology, ghost merchandising, consumer goods, and soon to take on mobility, while also being keen to meet people where they're at with regards to revolutionizing fun in Africa with Tukutane Entertainment. KS Group surely is active, and we look forward to seeing what it takes on next and where its ventures go on to do. Please keep us tuned, because here at Jepper Africa, we are very keenly charting East Africa's growth trajectory, and we are very certain that you are part of that. So thank you so much, Sichangi, for joining us today. We very much look forward to, and I might try and see if there's any ways I can go about on the side getting a few tickets for me and the team, right? But yeah. Probably to close, I'll probably say that I'll probably ask you to shout out a few of the places we can get tickets, a few of the places we can tune in and follow some of the ventures that you're going through, whether it be your websites, your social media pages. I know the Asake event has its own custom domain, things of that nature. What can we do to keep up and stay updated?
Okay, I think also I'd like to thank you and the team at JEPA for having me. I think for me on my part, it's always an honor, especially to speak on the cause that we are building and the work that we're doing. I'm happy to be back as well, and happy to see how we can organize some tickets, if not tickets themselves, something as well for the JEPA team and the JEPA audience as well. And for Tukutane in particular, we have www.tukutane.live and we have www.ashakekenya.com for Asake tickets. For the larger group initiatives, we have www.ksgroupafrica.com. I didn't get to speak much about it, but later this week, we launch a CSR initiative called Give August. So over August, we did some CSR work as a group, giving back to society and community. So that would be something for people to look out for. And I think as well, I promised you yesterday in terms of our ballpark valuation, I will give you something. I can say valuation is a very difficult thing to put thing on. We definitely turn over more than 7 figures in USD a month as a business. However, clearly defining one that is from a non-public listed company now becomes a thing of, do you do it multiplied over 5 years? Is this on an upward trajectory or downward trajectory? However, that's what our turnover is currently on a monthly basis across the group. And we're looking to grow that sustainably. It's a relatively big business. And how do I put it? I'd say it's just a start.
Yes, it does look like just a start when it comes to pointing upwards or downwards towards trajectory. Definitely, I get the inclination that you're going upwards.
Yes. So thank you to you and your team for having me. I was keen on also delivering my promise. I'm a man who keeps his word. So I did the best of my ability. And look forward to more interactions with JEPA as well. Any points of synergy or collaboration that we could work together to better East Africa, we're more than open to doing it.
Definitely, and I think that's something we'd welcome as well. And as we now close, and we thank everyone for tuning into this conversation and learning a few things that they probably came in not expecting to. We like to close with, how would I say, almost like a chant. So obviously, Karibu Japa can be a greeting, can be a goodbye, it's also a saying. It's also the name of the podcast, right? As we welcome people to have conversations about what it takes to transform the region. But effectively, I would tell the audience, thank you for listening. Until next time, then we would in unison say Karibu Japa. Yeah. Okay. So we can take a run at that. So to everyone listening, thank you so much. Like it if you enjoyed it and was streaming it on YouTube. Give us 5 stars on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And until next time, Karibu Japa. Something like that. Thank you so much. Thank you.